Kundalini rising into your nabi or into your space of power. Your nabi chakra or your navel, this is what connected you to the mother's womb. And it is through the cutting of the umbilical cord that you were separated when you were then taken out of the womb. When you are separated from your source of all that is, what comes out of it is an assumption that you're on your own. So what do? You cry. What do? You try to survive. So what does a baby first do? A baby, as soon as you put them on the mother, they will look for the mother's breast. Yeah, and they'll want to, and they know exactly what to do. They know where to go. So if you were to put, when the baby is born, if you were to put the baby on this belly, the baby will find their way. Yeah, and the baby will know exactly where to go. The baby will know what kind of cry to make, right? The baby stays very attached up until around the age of 7. They are still an extension. They're almost still not separated from the mother. Now, folks, what happens in this nabi chakra? What happens there? What is this all about? This is where we get our original individuate sense of self. This is where, when we break away from this, when we come into samsara, we come into samsara here. And this is where we develop our ego, our individuate sense of self, our ahamkara, our power. So when you have that chakra that is really pronounced, you will be full of egoistical behavior. You will want to be greedy. You will want to amass. You will have power struggles when that particular chakra is out of balance. Now, when you no longer see yourself as an extension of your creator, so the baby and the mother in this instance, so when the baby suddenly is now 7 and says, well, I'm not my mother, I know who I am. And in fact, that process itself starts at around 2. You'll notice that when they get into toddlerhood, a sense of agency starts to begin, and they want to now explore themselves, their world, the environment as them, through them, as opposed to through the eyes of the other. So this is where they start to learn about the environment, they start to learn about language, they learn so many things here, folks, right? What else do they learn here? What else do we start to tell the child? No. And what child will like that? Yeah? Now, so forget for a moment all the inner child healing and all of those things, but let's just imagine that this is now where the child, say they're going to be unsafe if they go to a certain place and say, oh no, don't touch the fire, or don't go there, don't do this, right? Or you want them to act in a certain way, or put their clothes on, or all these various things. So that getting into the sense of self starts to develop. Now your nabi chakra can develop very beautifully and can be very open and balanced, so that you don't feel that you need to have power struggles. You don't feel like you need to have a stamp of you wherever you go, so that you're not feeling either an inferiority complex or a superiority complex. If the way that you've been nurtured as a child, the way that sense of self was going to be developed, right? That's what's going to happen in your nabi chakra, and that's what it's going to represent. If you're balanced at your nabi, that is now what we call your core. So your core, that's your balance. So when your core is strong, the rest of you is strong, isn't it? But when it's out of balance, there's all sorts of things that can go wrong with that. Now, what happens to a healthy nervous system when a Kundalini starts to go through that? Yeah. So imagine whatever is already there, the Kundalini is simply going to amplify what is already there. When Kundalini is there, it will amplify your sense of self. Now, this is where if you start to feel entitled, you can sit here even with the Kundalini sitting there. This is where you will feel, I am now the guru. I am now the teacher. I need disciples. I've reached a certain point. So there's a lot of aggrandizement that is associated with the Nabi chakra. Remember, folks, it is not just that Kundalini will get to that point, and everything else has to be connected as well. So if everything else is not balanced, then this chakra, just by virtue of the Kundalini being there, doesn't mean that it's going to bring that into balance. Eventually, yes, because she'll get blocked there, but it can stay there not just for this one lifetime. It can stay there for the whole lifetime or many lifetimes. You can be stuck in that particular point so that you will keep coming back into lives or lifetimes where you are struggling with power, you're struggling with sense of self, and you maybe want to impose your sense of self onto others, how things ought to be, your power, that I am all powerful. And there is a lot of greed in this particular chakra. So when it's out of balance, this is when you want to be the creator, right? Because remember, that's Nabi, that's from what you were nurtured into that. So you're now connected to the source of it all. When it's balanced and you're connected to the source of it all and all that is, then you can harness that power. You can hold the Kundalini there so that you're holding the whole world inside of you, the whole existence inside of you, and retaining a humility rather than it becoming you so that you become out of balance. Folks, this point is absolutely vital. A lot of it is not unheard of. A lot of spiritual aspirants will get stuck at this point, and this is where many remain for a very, very long time, because this is when we feel that you're lost in this place, you're lost in this place, and you start to amass disciples, followers, and you sort of have this grandeur, and it's beautiful, like you get into all of this. But as you're doing all of this, you also may develop a spiritual ego. But when your Nabi is balanced, because remember, Kundalini is simply going to amplify the consciousness in all of these chakras. So the consciousness at which you're already there, if it is completely balanced, and so then you'll have a balanced experience. When it's not balanced, you will have a completely out of balance experience. But though it might be balanced and everything of yours is balanced, when Kundalini reaches here, there is always a risk of us falling into that spiritual ego. The spiritual ego, folks, can take us down right until we get to our pineal gland, right until we get to our third eye. It can literally take us down at any moment. And this is where we say that Maya does not stop. The veil of illusion does not fully get lifted. Yeah. So this is where that veil of illusion will be at its highest. Yeah, remember, because you're done with the desires, and so I don't want, and this is usually when you can probably also manifest. You're probably also already in tune with that, because by now you have conquered your sexual energy, your desires, and you've come to a point as you're balancing yourself that you're not going away with sensory pleasures. So this is where you may now want to be on this spiritual path and really hungry for more, and you want to learn more. You might be reading a million books and you want to know this, you want to know that, and your power is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, I don't know whether you may have heard of Ravana was the prime devotee of Shiva, yet he was completely power hungry. Yeah, but he's considered as the greatest devotee of Shiva. Now imagine having that kind of hunger for power. That's what your Nabi chakra is about. So this is where, folks, when your Kundalini is in this chakra, humility, and at this chakra, for you to be able to meditate on your heart and third eye, for you to be able to balance your throat, the rest of your chakras is what's going to help you with this particular chakra. Sending you so much love, the sun, the rays of the sun, the light of your being shining right through you, so that your Nabi gives rise to the most wonderful creation. Lots of love. Take care.